good afternoon, everybody on Tipstock, online with Oscar RC, where we discuss everything. Here we come and we discuss everything, and we have men and women that always join us and share a lot of wisdom with us based on the subject matter that we'll be dealing with. So this whole month of June, we are dealing with the issue of writing, publishing, reading. That's our focus. In the month of May, we're dealing with education, and it was quite interesting. We were preparing people for their exams, under the lockdown season, online studying and all that, and it was quite interesting. So this month, our focus, we're talking writing, we're talking publishing, we're talking reading, and that's our language. So with me today is two great men that I really, 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 adore because of the work they are doing, the impact they're making, in the space they have. And I don't want to exhaust in terms of introducing them because I know them in a certain way. They have impacted my life in unique ways. So I would overshadow, the introduction and personalize it. So I want to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves so that you can know them. They're men of so many titles, very gifted, touching so many spheres. But I'm going to hand over to them. I don't know who's going to speak first. They're going to introduce themselves, and we're going to, enjoy, and we go on. Over to you, gentlemen. Please do introduce yourselves.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. You on Kids Talk with ORC. I'm a writer. I'm an editor, and I'm a teacher. I'm everything to do with words. I'm everything to do with writing. I'm everything to do with acquisition of knowledge. My name is Phomolo Dominic Katonto. Yes, from Letshwiti, Botswana. Good to have you this afternoon. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. This is Onkeme Letshwiti, all the way from Botswana. I'm based in Gaborone, and I come from Letshwiti. It's a very wonderful day to meet my homeboy, all the way from Letshwiti. And greetings to all of you here, and thank you so much for joining us on Tips Talk online with Oscar RC, a very good friend of mine, all the way from Pretoria, a man who does quite a lot, especially when it comes to community work. I am a man of many hats, but I'll just mention a few. I'm an author and a writer as well, because there is a difference between the two. I hope to explain later what that means. I'm also a preacher. I'm a pastor. I pastor a church, and I speak once a month on radio. And that's basically that. Otherwise, I run businesses, around here in Botswana, and I also have authored quite a lot of books, and it's all by the blessing of God. I think I'm on my close to 30th book now, because I've been writing since 2008. Yeah, I've been writing since then. It's been quite an amazing journey. I've learned quite a lot. I wanted to quit at one point, but you know how it is. I came back, and I'm on it as we speak, and I have a couple of books that I'm just about to release now, of which I'll talk about as we go on. But thank you so much, Oscar, for hosting me on this powerful platform.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, this is quite interesting. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. And just like I said, these are men, with so many caps, and they're doing so much great work. And I'm going to start with you, Bishop. And today I'm going to call you with so many titles. So just accept each title as it comes. So I'm going to come back to you. And you mentioned something that you own your about 30 something book, and I know in my library, I think I've got six of your books. I think I do have them in my library. What has been that driving force? Where do you get, and I'm going to ask it in two ways, where do you get the time, to write so much? That's number one. Number two, where do you get the information? Are you focusing on one topic? And I'm asking not really for me, because I know that you have written on so many stuff, and maybe I can say you've got books that are religious books. One of the powerful books that I read is the one that you're talking about prayer. You've written on leadership, you've written on so many. You've got these nice pocket books that talks on declarations, money declarations, and all that. And there's so many stuff that you've written. How are you getting this content? How are you balancing your time to be able to put all these things together?
Okay. First of all, let me answer the one that you're talking about, where I get the information. First of all, I'm called of God, but before that, I got born again. I'm a child of God. I believe in God. And also, I believe that, when you are a child of God, when you are a servant of God, there's really so much that you can receive through the Spirit of God. And that is to say that I receive all this through the Spirit of God, and through, I believe, where I originate, basically, as the weight, because if we can get deep into it, we are actually the weight, and whatever we write about is what will actually bring the manifestation of who we are according to our Creator. And with the time, this is how I do my writing. Okay. Most of the books that I've written, if not all of them, I've written them. The reason why I'm saying I started writing in 2008, it's actually the material that has always been there. This is what I do when I go to speak anywhere, even right here, every time I write what I'm going to speak about. Let's say, for example, even when I go to preach or when I go to speak somewhere, I write it down. So I write it down in a point form, and then I'll be recording at the same time. So after the meeting or after the session, I go back to the write-up that I had before speaking, and then I take the recording, and then I start editing. So it's very easy for me to put together a book, because I've taken advantage. I'll talk about certain things when it comes to writing later. But what I want to now say for now is that writing happens over the years. Like if I produce a book now, it's not like I started writing it now. It's from way back. I mean, there are books that I have, like Switch On, for example. I think I've started writing this book a long time ago. I can't really figure out, but it's basically, within from 2008 up to now. I put together material like that. So my main strength is in, recording my messages and writing them down. And, even if I have a counseling session, I write down and I record. So that is basically how I get my material. I take advantage of the speaker on behalf of the writer, and I also take advantage of the writer on behalf of the speaker. So it's sometimes we miss quite a lot because, or we think we don't have time because we don't write down as we receive whatever that we are receiving.
Wow, no, that's really interesting, and you remind me one time I visited my sister's saloon. She runs a saloon, and while I'm sitting there and they're doing whatever they were doing, I got so many things that I could speak about, and for me that day it was not really about what I could write about, but from what you're saying, it draws me, to the truth that we can write about anything. We can be, finding our information from anything around us. Anything around us can feed us, with information. Now, going to you, Dominic, I've read one of your books that's on language, and I remember we did an event together back there in Gaborone I think almost 2 years ago, and that was my first time to meet you in person. What an awesome talk that you gave us on, on writing in terms of language side, how editing goes on. You were just messing our minds there, and very, very informative, talk that you gave us that day. But I want to check with you as an author, as a writer, before I'm going to, touch on you as an editor. As an author, how has been your journey? What has been your inspiration? Because your writing is a little bit different, if I can put it that way. You've got one impression that I personally has interpreted from you. It's you are into the roots. One must understand their foundation. You are an investigator sometimes. You like to investigate what brought us here and all those things. Just share brief with us in terms of your writing and an author's journey.
Oh yeah, thank you, ORC. It's been a beautiful journey, and I don't think it's going to be a short one because there's a lot of material already that has been put together that is just waiting to be put out there, and across subjects, like across genres, of writing. Um, for me, just as Onkeme Letshwiti has said, inspiration comes at random, moments whereby you're not even planning that, I'm about to put together a book. And sometimes it's an accumulation of knowledge that, like my book, my debut work, A Culture Proud Future, which is actually a beautiful, beautiful collection of some of our indigenous knowledge aspects of language in Botswana. It's something that occurred over time. It started with me seated with a friend outside, and then I saw an occurrence of one of the expressions which we often stifle for just an expression, which means the hind hoof trudges where the front storms. When I saw a cow walking this talk, this expression being exactly, displayed by this animal, that's when I took to the script that indeed language is rich and I need to share with people this thing. So it was in that event that I began writing A Culture Proud Future. But it's a book that was released a couple of years later from that incident. Like you're saying, I'm so much entrenched in language. When I write, it's one of the things that I look at greatly. Elaboration. Books are full of elaborations, and for you to put out a good book out there, you should be in that position of being fluid when it comes to elaboration. Yeah. One of my works as well, A Garden of Words, it was a book that was inspired and written in a very short time. So there's a diversity to how I produced my writing. Some are what happening and accumulating over time, while others could just be that heavy period of inspiration, and then out of that moment, I extract and produce a masterpiece. Yeah. I think that's the little I could share um, about how I come about, my writing, as in my journey since the day I started scripting. Yeah. Hello. Or Archie.
I think he has a challenge with the network, eh?
Okay.
Bishop Onkeme mentioned in his introduction, he mentioned something interesting, and he says that there is a difference between a writer and an author. Just can you touch that? Just to explain to somebody who's listening us today the difference between an author and a writer.
Okay. Oh yeah, thank you so much. When it comes to an author is somebody who originates an idea that is to be written. And then a writer is basically, somebody who can just write without even having to publish whatever that they are writing about. So everyone, can be a writer. We have few authors, people who originate ideas. It's very important to always outline where you are writing from as an author or as somebody who is, reading from somewhere. There are people who, read online, and then they take the material they rewrite, basically in their own, in their own words. And it has to be clear so that we really understand the difference between you and, the person who actually came up with the idea. And we are living in a time whereby we need to acknowledge one another. We need to really acknowledge one another, because we've got a lot of writers who behave like they are authors, but honestly, they are not authors. I'm a publisher as well, and sometimes I get a lot of people who bring material to me, and one of the ways that I decide not to publish material is because I've got a lot of material that I know that is online, and when you bring your book, I check against that, and sometimes I just raise the prices so that you get discouraged and not come, because some people, when you tell them this thing is online, this thing you got it online, they will they will argue with you. So I'm not a person who likes getting into arguments. So we really need to draw a line between writers and authors. Authors, like I said, they have original ideas. You can actually be an author and get somebody to write whatever that you have authored.
Yes, your idea. No, that's very true. And now, Dominic, you are an editor, and just to cough it out to the whole world, we on some projects we have started working together. And also you've got one amazing gift that you have that I love, the poetic side as well of you. Maybe we'll touch on that. But you as an editor, what has been, some of your things that you identified from people's work in terms of originality? As an editor, I bring my manuscript to you. let's talk on originality. How original is some ideas that are people presenting to you as an editor, and how are you dealing with that? Let's say I bring my manuscript, and then you can realize to say, Oscar here, half of what he wrote, he actually took it from Onkeme's book, which is Switch On, because you were reading the book. So how do you then come back to me and say, no, Oscar, this is not you? As an editor, just share with us your journey.
Oh yeah. What I normally come across is like Onkeme said, there are those who come up with original ideas, very novel ideas. And that's very, very exciting for me to work on very new and brand new ideas. And then there are those that you find that indeed there is a bit of plagiarism, there is a bit of dishonesty. Yes. And most of the people who have worked with me, the writers, the authors who have worked with me, they have an adjective they normally use about me, that I'm very ruthless, because I would highlight and say, from here up to here is totally not you, and we cannot advance under your name. Because I, for one, I have some ideas that have originated, and I know the pain and the cost of your idea being picked and used elsewhere. So I normally highlight that and encourage originality. I always tell my writers, anyone who brings a manuscript to me, I always show them rather to develop an idea. When you have been given an idea, or where you stumbled upon an idea that excited you, develop on it in a certain way. There's a certain path, like how some of us, we are great because we stand on the shoulders of giants. Make your climb, but being smart and being creative, not necessarily reproducing or making a copy of what has been, because oftentimes it lacks, it becomes so vague that even when you try to own it and carry it around, it just doesn't reflect you. So normally I encourage you to write what actually reflects you, what you can actually own up without worry or looking over your shoulder. Yeah. And when you meet an author who has an original idea, it's a beautiful path, because it, as an editor, it gives you an opportunity to even help them explore further their ideas, even in breadth and length that they never thought existed within their idea. I have a service within my editorial called content development, whereby novel ideas, we can play around with novel ideas. We can stretch them and actually exhaust them of width, of breadth. But when it's an idea that already exists, there's always a limitation. When you try to explore it, you can only find yourself back at the original idea. And then you realize this is not something to advance, into a book.
Yeah. Now, that's very interesting. And gentlemen, now as we're mentioning the issue of originality and all that, it brings us to the other part of our conversation today, which goes to reading. But before I get there, there's an episode that we did with Phomolo, and we were encouraging people on reading in terms of the relationship between writing and reading. Now, how do I bridge the gap to say, I've got an original idea that I have, I'm an author, but then I want to reference my idea. I want to quote what somebody wrote. Now, what's the relationship between reading and writing? Because that's one thing that we really need to find. Is there really a relationship, or I can just simply have my original idea, I'm an author, I just write it and then I publish it just like that? Is there a benefit in becoming a reader if I'm a writer, or just write whatever thoughts you have, just focus on that original idea. Maybe for some of us who are spiritual people, maybe I just had a dream and I just write it and then I publish it. It's a revelation. How do we, bridge the gap? And I'm going to go back to you, Dominic, to touch on that one first.
Oh yeah. You know what reading does? Reading gives you an opportunity to link ideas. If you think you're an originator, when you read as a writer, you get the opportunity to see other thoughts that have existed, which can actually complement your thought or idea. That dream that you could wake up from. You find that there's actually a whole lot of body of knowledge that you can actually bring to supplement what you have actually received as a novel concept with you. It also, reading also helps you as a writer not to just replicate what's already out there. Because if you think you have an idea, for example, I want to talk about maybe anger management. And the ideas that I've actually stumbled upon as original, when I go on and read, I may realize that I'm actually reproducing what is already out there. So reading as a writer gives you an opportunity to, sift and then actually have the confidence to say, this is an original work. Reading exposes you to what is already there, to what is missing, so which can be an advantage for you to inculcate in your idea now, what's missing about this area of knowledge. Yeah. So writing and reading, they are related in the sense that as a writer, you advance freely when you have read around the subject that you are pursuing. You advance with confidence when you now know, when you're well abreast about the whole area.
Wow. No, that's really great. And to you, Bishop, what's your take on this one? Reading and writing, the connection between it. How do I,
Okay. When it comes to reading and writing, we need to understand, first of all, that we have what we call the language skills, and reading is amongst them. And those language skills are listening, speaking, writing, and reading. And reading is the third among those things that support the language skills. And like Phomolo just said, it's very important to link the two because you get to, know what's out there. I remember when I was writing Become Successful Today, I read Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read, books that are related to success because I was writing on success and I was writing a bit on the mind as well. And that is a book that really, sometimes I sit down, I wonder how it came about. Actually, I was speaking somewhere in a junior school. So I was about to go and speak. That is why I said that we really, really need to write down our stuff even before we go to speak, because it will help you later on when you want to put that in a book. So I was sitting there and I was about to speak to the junior school students, and I thought about the word successful, and then I just wrote that word down. And then in that book, I actually used that word for all the topics. It's sacrifice, usefulness, confidence, consistency, separation. I talk about learning. So it's all that. So it's basically important to be a reader before you can actually get deep into writing. I mean, for me, before 2008, actually before 2008, I used to read a lot. I used to read a lot until at one point. Now, here is the thing. There is bound to be a conflict between a reader and a writer in you, or the reader and the author in you, in this way, that if you read, too much, and you continue on reading and writing at the same time, it can actually get you into a conflict, because you can end up duplicating what you were actually reading about. But I understand that reading is mainly, like Phomolo said, is mainly to be confident and to understand certain things in a different perspective. And I've in some of my books, I remember I actually, borrowed some of the ideas from the books that I read. And what I did, I actually wrote about my understanding of what I was reading about. My understanding of what I was reading about, not basically taking the whole thing and just pasting. So you understand that reading actually supports writing very much, because you get to be developed. You get to see how, writers are supposed to write. I think I learned how to write from reading. Basically, I read until I started writing. Basically, I like I was saying the other day, that for me, when I started writing books, I was actually writing books for myself. I wasn't writing books for people until later. Some people came and said, "Why don't you give me this book?" A lot of people came out, and I thought, okay, that's when I had an idea to publish and get it out there. But otherwise, I was so much into reading that I ended up writing stuff that I read as well. So reading has so much to support writing.
Wow.
Oh,
I,
this
I,
is
I
very,
love,
very, very interesting. Yeah.
it's very
Yeah.
interesting. I wanted to say, you see, for you to be able to write, it normally starts with reading, like the Master Letshwiti is saying. It starts with the reading. Even for you to be able to write in that particular genre, is it fiction? You should have read some part of fiction, some volumes of fiction. For you to be able to write in motivation, you should have been exposed to a read of motivation. So reading actually sets you on this highway of writing. It exposes you to the form of writing. It exposes you to the language. It exposes you to even how ideas of that particular writing are organized. So I strongly agree with him when he says, it starts with reading mostly. Um, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And while we are on that, I remember that you have written a book on reading. There's a book like that you have released. How do you become a better reader? How do you become the best reader that you can be? Just give us some tips that are found in that book, or just share with us about that book. In 2 minutes.
Just launch that book on TikTok.
Just launch that book on TikTok in 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity. I wrote a book called Become an Effective Reader Today. Now, this book was inspired by the fact that I heard many people saying people don't read. And well, when I heard it, I knew that it's true. You know, so many people don't read. But I realized something, that it's not actually that people don't read. It's actually people don't know how to read. Because if you don't know how to do something, I don't see the reason why you should do it. So I came up with this book called Become an Effective Reader today, because at one point I realized that, you know, I was going around selling my books, and I realized that it's true, people don't read. But you know, I'm not gonna settle for that, because I keep on writing books, and it looks like this is how I'm gonna live my life. So I better do something about it. So that is why I wrote Become an Effective Reader today. And one of the things that inspired this book again is that there is a line that I wrote even on the cover, that not every book must be read from page 1 to the last. Not every book must be read from page 1 to the last. You know, there are big books that, you know, you can find at the bookshops, but it's not always, you know, that you will have to read all of that which is in that book. Because even as writers, we don't basically write to people who are point blank. We must understand that we are writing to people who actually know something. And there is probably, there might be one or two things that they've not come across that comes from you. Because even with us writers, here is something that we need to understand. We need to understand that there can be one idea in a book that is actually originating from you, that needs to be supported by other ideas from other people. So I wrote this book to say to somebody, you don't have to read, not every book is to be read from page 1 to the last. There are books that you just need one thing in it, and that's it. You can even read a paragraph and that's it. Nobody will take you to prison for that. You need to understand that. And that is effective reading. That's how, you know, I got the freedom to become an effective reader. And something that I wrote in this book is that you must learn to use table of contents. Because when you go to table of contents, you will find everything that's about the book, except for people, you know, who, you know, like cheating people. They can write on table of contents that they have 1, 2, 3. But when you get to the page, you find, hey, there's really nothing. But most of the books, you can be directed by the table of contents. You just need to go there. If you want to read about, let's say, for example, about the mind, about success, you just get to table of contents, pick that, go there. That's all that you need from that book, and that's it. And the other thing that can help you to be an effective reader is to buy or collect good books. The reason why I'm saying buy and collect good books, not every good book is good for you. Books that are good for you are actually books that have to do with something that you are passionate about. For example, if you want to be a billionaire, you have to have in your collection books that have to do with billionaires. If you are, you know, a success patient, you have to have books in your bookshelf. You have to have books on that. If you are a speaker, you have to have books of you know, the best speakers in the world. You have to, you know, books that have to do with your purpose, with your passion. So collect such books and you will become an effective reader. And another one is reading multiple books. Reading multiple books. I remember one time I was reading a book and I bought another book during the day, and I wanted to read the one that I bought during the day, and I wanted to leave one that I was reading. And I said, no, man, maybe I should just read both of them. So that's how I got this skill. Right now, I can read 8 books at once. I can read 8 books at once. And it's very effective, because if, for example, you are reading on money and you are reading on budgeting and on planning and on, you know, subjects that are related, it will, you know, it will help you faster than if you read, one book on budgeting, and then you spend a month. We have targets. You spend a month reading a book on budgeting. The next one you are reading on money. It delays implementation. But if you take all of them, there is how you can read multiple books. Another one, to become an effective reader, become a bookworm. Become a bookworm. When you go to the bank where there are long queues, you go to the bus station, you are still in that taxi, you are still, at the doctor's office, carry a book and read. Don't just be there. That is why we have a lot of people who complain about long queues. I'm one person who I don't have time to complain about long queues. I just get there with my book and I sit. Before long, I'm the next one. You can use the time to read. Another one is having reading friends. This one, I've realized that it's so powerful that Oscar can be reading a book and he's my friend and he will come and tell me what's in the book. I've read the book through him. Phomolo can be reading a book and I ask him, what book are you reading? And he starts telling me what book he's reading. I've read the book. So you can actually read through friends if you have reading friends. Another one, note down new things. When you read, the effective way to read is to note down every new thing that you get from the book. Don't just read through and put the book aside. Note things down, because later on you would want to go through what you've written. Just like at church, during our sessions, I always see some people noting down things. When they go home later, they sit and they reflect on that. Another one, which is very important, do not criticize. I know there are a lot of people, when they are reading books, the first thing that they do, they criticize books. You will never learn from a book that you are criticizing. Put criticism aside. If you have to criticize, separate, criticize later. Or call the author, sit them down and ask them, what were you writing here? Don't criticize a book that you want to read. There is one man who says, if you don't like the book, close it, put it away, write your own. Because, many people who criticize books, they think they can write better stuff. And I always tell people that if you read one of my books and you find that I omitted something in it, it means you are the one responsible to write about it. So I'm waiting for your next book. And then the other one is, don't rush through books. Don't rush through books. There are people who have reading targets. And for them to actually cover up in that time, they just browse through books so that they can run to Facebook and say, I read 10 books in 2 weeks. It's not about that. You need to take your time with, there are books that you don't have to just, rush through. Like the Bible. We are still reading the Bible even today. That there are books that I'm no longer reading. I remember one of the first books that I read when I became a Christian, Good Morning, Holy Spirit. I read that book over and over, and then I'm no longer reading it because it has really helped me. But if there is one book that I can never stop reading, is the Bible. The Bible, you don't browse through, you don't rush through. That's one of the books. And another one is join book clubs. Join book clubs. And this one I encourage so many people to do, because it will encourage you to read even on your own. Because in book clubs, you know how it is. Even at school, we used to take turns reading, especially books that had, dramas. You'll be this character, I'll be this one, and we take turns in class. Of course, I used to be laid back in class, while others are reading. But book clubs are very important. Join book clubs, or come up with a book club, if you may. And another one is making time for reading. Making time for reading. There is nothing like I don't have time for reading. You have to make it because there is no time for reading. You have to make it out of your schedule. And then the last one is...
Okay. Let me hold you before you go to the last one, because I want someone who's listening to us today to order your book. So I don't want you to finish them. So you gave us a teaser and you almost finished them. I don't know, because I was enjoying, so I should have stopped you earlier. But what I'm going to say is that to our listeners, to our viewers, they must order this book. They must get in touch and get this book, because I remember there's a time that we were talking about it and we were sharing about it. I haven't read it me myself, but there are times that we were sharing about it, and I saw some quite number of relevant tips. And one of the things that I found from that book was, because I used to struggle with this thing. I'm not somebody who normally reads a book from the beginning to the end. That's my reading style. Unless maybe I'm reading a novel, which I think in my whole life I've read only 2 novels. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I would, just go into a topic, read on that topic, close that book, put it in my library. I can count,
and feel guilty.
yeah, and I know I feel guilty. So when I had that introduction statement that you made to say it's not all the books that you need to read the entire book, that day, to be honest, you delivered me from the guilt that I was having. So I celebrated and said, oh, so I'm doing the right thing. Because some books, they are for a certain season. Some books, they are for a certain time, so you need to use them like that. But going to Phomolo, as an editor, what tips can you give to somebody who wants to start writing? Somebody's listening to us, somebody's gonna watch this video on YouTube when I upload it on my channel. What tips can you give them? They're struggling, they want to become writers, they want to become authors and all that. What tips? Maybe just 3 to 5 tips that you can give them that they can run with.
Oh yeah, thank you. One of the things that you should do as a writer, one of the most important things to do is to write. If you want to become a writer, start writing. Take a pen and write. That's success. Write. And then another thing you should know is there is not one author or writer in this world who has not written and went over what they have written and saw errors. So you're going to write and you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make errors. You're going to write, many drafts. So make those mistakes. Write those mistakes down. And be happy to make drafts over and over again. So the first thing is to write. And the second thing is be comfortable with making errors as you write. And then the third thing is to read. Read to decode. If you want to write fiction, read around fiction so that you decode the form and the style of how fiction has to be written, where you will have your climax, your resolution, and everything. Learn by reading around the genre you want to write on. And another thing for you to write effectively, eventually, is to research, gather information, and then in your writing, you can actually decide what you take, what you don't take. You cannot come to write when you are empty. So by research, you gather information. You know how to organize your ideas. You will not be empty after research. So those are the simple 5 tips. Do your research, do the reading, write and do the mistakes, and be comfortable in writing those mistakes. And lastly, for you to be a seasoned writer, see an editor. Make sure you have someone who does the alpha reading someone who does the editorial, someone who will be ruthless to say, this is not ready for readership. Because as writers, we are promoting readership. Therefore, what is read has to be exciting to keep the culture of reading going. Our writings should not put out the fire of reading. So it's important that you take your work ultimately for editing so that you can get the green light, that now you can go ahead and promote readership. Yeah, those are the simple tips. I wanted to say, as Mr. Letshwiti was speaking, I wanted to say, making time for reading, being intentional about reading is one way of making you an effective reader. If you don't become intentional about a want to read, you would hardly ever amount to that. But if you're intentional and say, I'm sparing 30 minutes of my day to actually page through a book, you will definitely become an effective reader. Yeah.
Wow. No, that's mouthful. That's mouthful. Yeah.
Okay, let me add something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As a writer out there, one of the things that you need to understand is that there is a speaker who can be supporting the writer. You know, sometimes I just stand before a video and just say things, you know, say those ideas, and later on I sit and just, write them down. Because as writers, you can be receiving one line and you have to actually work with that. I remember when I received this idea of switch on, I was just driving home and I just felt within me, switch on. And I was wondering, what is this? And, that voice in me just said, maybe it's a book. And then I just agreed. I said, okay, oh yeah, wow, that's a book. I drove home. When I got home, I wrote about 50 pages of switch on. And I did a structure. It was actually a structure because sometimes we want to write on one topic, finish it, write another one, finish it in one book. But actually, you can actually write the skeleton of the book. Once you are done with the skeleton of the book, you start filling in. I remember there is actually one tip that I used to use, Phomolo. This is what I did with someone who came to me and they said, I've got a book that I want you to help me publish. And then I did a crazy thing that day. I put a camera there. I took his material. I put a camera there and I said to him, can you actually speak on this book from page 1 to the last? And I went away. I just, started recording and I went away. This guy, went through his book, like from page 1 to the last, everything. And then when I came back, we watched the video and I said, you know what? I'm going to help you to publish this book because this is actually your idea. And then he said to me, actually, this book, I wrote it in one night. He says he wrote it from 12 midnight and he finished the book at 4 a.m. And I said, wow, this is actually, one of the signs that this is original. This is your material. So it's very important to, like I started, it's very important to have the speaker support the writer. There are things that you can speak before you write. There are things that you can write before you speak. I remember one time I was going to church and I wanted to speak on a certain topic. And I felt within me that, it's better to go there without anything. There are times that I just go there with a Bible, especially for certain people who are really, they are not much into they are still young believers. If you come there and you start talking without anything before you, they will start, doubting. So there are times that I feel like, just going to church and just standing there and just opening my mouth and just speaking. There are topics that I can just do that. There are topics that I would need to sit and research. I would need to really, really get my story in place, and especially because before I go far, especially for stories that have to do with your experience. Because look at it this way: there are stories that have to do with your experience, like you've practiced it, you've walked through it. There is what you want to become. So we either talk about our experiences, like in some of my books, like Switch On. Switch On is a book that is packed with my experience, what I do when I wake up, what I do when I go to sleep. I just share my habits, and I thought they could work, for somebody out there. And there are books that I write, and they are not basically what I'm doing now, but what I desire to do, what I desire to be. Like, I've started writing fiction. I wasn't somebody who would just imagine crazy things. But during the lockdown, thank God for lockdown, I was writing a book. It's coming out very soon. It's called The Dream That Nearly Died. So I'm just writing a story, a success story, and, such things. So it's very important to take advantage of the speaker as a writer, so that you can get a lot from the speaker, and the speaker can also get a lot from the writer.
Wow.
I love so much the narrative of, the relationship between, a speaker and a writer. That's really an amazing narrative that you are putting on there. And moving on, and we are drawing to the end of our segment today. I want us to do 2 punchlines that I want to do, before we can leave this platform. I know we have helped people quite a lot in terms of writing and reading, trying to balance. I was really wondering how are we going to balance this content, but it has come together so well. Dominic, I'm going to give you to do sort of like closing remarks. But in your closing remarks, just pour your heart. If it means you're going to do a poem for us, do a poem. If it means you're going to, I don't know, a presentation that you're going to do, or give us one line where you are translating, an idiom or a proverb, in your mother tongue, and then you explain to it how it means to us. And Bishop, I'm going to give you also to do the same. Just to wrap up with a punchline where you show us the other side of you, that we need to know. Yeah. So,
Wow.
I'm gonna do it. Wow, that's interesting, yeah. I think, all right. I had the voice. Rapping was the choice. I'm gonna share a piece of poetry. It's called Read. It's called Read.
all right.
Where is it? Where is it? Oh,
Yeah, this one is gonna be interesting. We're waiting for this one.
I'm gonna give you a piece of poetry from my compilation of poetry. Oh. Kindly bear with me. I'm now searching for it.
Okay. Are we still on?
You could go first. Let me fetch it. It's
Okay.
you could go
There's
first.
something that I wanted to say. Well, this is about myself. Okay.
Yes.
I think many people don't know this about me, but I used to stay in Pretoria, where I was doing my my saving, and as a pastor, as a servant of God. I used to stay in Pretoria. There was one time I was staying with one man of God. So we came to a time where I had to leave because he had really helped me, through the time. And when I went out of his house, I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have anywhere to go. Like, I didn't have plans. So I came across an advertisement. They were advertising a garage, like a car garage. So I think it was 200 rands. Many people didn't know about this. It was 200 rands. So what happened there was that I decided to go and see the owner. I went there, I saw the owner. I said to the owner, it was a lady. I said to her, how much is your garage? Can I hire it? Can I rent it out? And she said, sure. Okay. She gave me the padlock to the garage. And the way I was looking, I mean, she thought I have a car, I'm gonna park the car inside. In fact, I went in to actually stay in the garage. So, and it was winter. It was cold. I mean, Oscar, you'd know the winter that side. It was winter. I stayed in the garage, and in Pretoria, the students used to recycle. Not like recycle. I'm the one who was actually recycling. They actually threw out the mattresses. So I found a mattress on the street, and I was shy to take it, during the day. So I had to wait so that it can be, a bit dark. I went there, I took the mattress, and this is what happened. At the gate, they used the tags to go in. So I didn't have a tag because I think this lady thought I stay in that building. So obviously I have a tag. So she gave me the padlock to the garage. So I had to stay by the gate to wait for somebody to come and tag, and then they hold the gate for me. I put in the mattress. So I waited. That day, I really, really waited. I don't know what happened. People were not coming out. People were not going in. So I had to wait. So I waited until some guy came in, and I asked him, can you please help me? To go in. Can you hold the gate for me? I didn't want him to realize that I don't have the tag. So he held the gate. I put in the mattress. I went straight to the garage, opened it, put the mattress in. So when I go inside, I couldn't lock because you can only lock from outside. So I have to push the garage door down and then go to sleep. So in the night, when I want to pee, I used a bottle of Coke, of Coke. I would empty. I would have had a drink, and I would bring that bottle, and then in the night I would pee in that. And then I used to bath in a bucket, like with cold water. in a bucket. And I attended services like everybody else, staying in a garage. And I don't want to lie to you. I don't know, but during those days, it's like God came from heaven and stayed in that garage. Like stayed with me. I still remember, if there's one thing that I remember about the presence of God is what the day that I was in that garage, and I was still writing. I was writing. I remember I used to write on books because I used to use pen and a book, just write a lot of material. So what would happen is, I have to sleep late in the night before people, after people have gone to sleep. I would go in late in the night, and I have to wake up early before anyone can wake up. So I had to wake up in the morning and just go somewhere. I wasn't working. If there was no service, it was hard for me. At least if there was a service, I would go to church and be there. I didn't have food, and many people didn't know about this, but that's how I survived. I think for about was it 3 months or so? I was just staying in the garage until God opened the door. I found a way out. So that's an experience that I can never forget. And I used to stay in a garage, but today I stay in a very big house. Our bathroom is the size of that garage. My master bedroom bathroom is the size of that garage. So that's basically how I used to live. And many people didn't know that. But life goes on, and here am I. So I just wanted to share that with you because many people don't know about that. There are so many things that I could share about, but that's just what came to me when you said we should just say something. But I'm blessed. I thank God I had to go through that because it really, really taught me a lot, because now I can take care of, what God has given me, the big house, the big mansion that I stay in, that I own. I'm not renting. I stay in my house, and it's a very beautiful house. And it's all by God's grace. And I have 2 cars parked outside. I mean, God is so gracious. God is so merciful. And he took me this far. I mean, 30 books is not a joke. I wanted to give up at one point. I thought, look, because for me, I didn't go to university like other people. Quickly, a quick one. I finished my Form 5 and I had to go straight to work because there was nobody working in my family. So I had to work and I had to take care of the family. I think I was 17 years at that time. And my mother had to sign everything for me at that time. So I grew up like that, and I didn't have a chance to go to university. I qualified, yes, but I had to choose in between. But here am I. I mean, it's a different story.
Wow. Well, let me do a bit then. Oscar.
It looks like he's gone again, eh?
Oscar.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was saying, I think we need to get a book titled The Garage Days, written. We need that one. And second one, a second book that I'm thinking that can be written as well. It's called, In the Foreign Land. And maybe we can co-author that one, Apostle. We can co-author that one.
Wow.
for us, you know. So with me,
Wow.
Nice.
you know, being an author, I think to our viewers, they can now pick what being an author is to generate an idea. I've just come up with 2 books as we are talking right now, you know. Phomolo,
Wow.
over to you, man.
Wow. All right. I'll pick a piece that's titled Writing. I love writing. Maybe not. I am addicted to writing, but not really. I'm carried away without my consent in writing. I do it even when I don't want to. I'm excited to do it even when I'm doing things that I love. Yes, those things I love happens to support writing because writing gets scared when I'm doing them. When I go out, my pen wants me to do it a lot on paper. Even if I propose later, I find myself moments later scribbling stuff on paper.
Wow.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Phomolo, are you done?
I think he's done. That was powerful.
Yeah, profound, profound. No, thank you so much, you know, for your time, gentlemen, for, you know, making time to be with, you know, with us today and sharing wisdom, you know, sharing knowledge, amazing stories that have been shared today, your skills, your journey. I really appreciate your time. And as we draw to the end, I just want to say to the viewers, thank you also for tuning in. And if you've got any follow-up questions, put them on our, you know, on the comment box, or you can inbox to me. These gentlemen here, they both, they are very active on social media. You can also get hold of them, and you can also get this video on my Facebook page, Oscar RSC, or you can go to my YouTube channel, Oscar Rufaro, and just subscribe as well. And you can get all these TikToks episodes. They are always there on my YouTube channel just after we finish. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. May the dear Lord bless you. But I'm going to give you 30 seconds each before I close. Today is Youth Day in South Africa. It's almost the end of the day, the 16th of June. Just 2 words that you can speak to the young people. Just say a word to them, especially to the Black child as well, with all the things that are going on currently. 2 words that you can just say to encourage them, to inspire them, and we'll be done for the day.
Okay. What I can say to young people is that they need the elders. They need the elders. You know, they are so zealous, we know. But if the zeal is not directed, then it's gonna work against them. They need mentors, people who have gone, you know, ahead, who've seen beyond the curve, who can relate with them, with their experience. So that's basically what I can say, that we really, even all of us, we need mentors in areas where we want to emerge great. Thank you so much. And also, I have a book that I would love to give to someone as a gift. Switch On, the reloaded version. I would like to give it to somebody who would answer a question that Oscar will ask on the other side. I will have their hard copy with me here, reloaded version of Switch On. And look out for my recent book that's going to come out. It's called The Dream That Nearly Died. I really, really want you to have this one because it's a very powerful one. And it's just a book that I wrote to make you understand that most of the time, if not all the time, we are the greatest enemies to our own success. So we need to take responsibility of our time and fulfill our dreams. Thank you so much.
Wow. And thank you so much for the gift. And we will follow up and announce the winner for that one. Definitely, we really need to, you know, to share. This is amazing. I'm so touched today. And thank you so much, Apostle. I know I can see Phomolo is already out. But thank you you so much also to him and to all our viewers this evening. Shalom, shalom. See you on Thursday.
Thank you,
See you
sir.
on Thursday. Thursday, by the way, just before I run out, on Thursday, we're going to be dealing with academic writing. So all the guys that are doing your postgraduate, you're doing your master's, you're doing your doctorates, your PhD, I've got professors that are coming through to be with us. So let's make sure that we on and we get to learn. Cheers, cheers.